This is my parents, and they're my audience for my persuasive speech on why we should arm Ukrainian citizens. Imagine waking up from a deep sleep to the loud and alarming sounds of tanks surrounding your city, explosive gunfire, and bombs exploding daily. This was Kiev, Ukraine, a couple months ago, and this is what has unfortunately become the reality every day. Ukrainian citizens are losing their lives while attempting to save their homeland. Olga Tokarczuk, an independent journalist in Ukraine, reported in Time magazine on March 22nd, 2022, of, quote, unarmed citizens blocking roads or lying on the ground in front of Russian tanks. This is a Ukrainian citizen in front of tanks. As a result of Russia's invasion, journalist Azami Haran reported in the Business Insider of February 23rd, 2022, that the Ukrainian parliament passed a law that allowed all citizens to be able to carry guns in public. Previously, they could only have a gun in the house. Obviously, the Ukrainians are trying to protect their homeland. This is some of the weapons that the Ukrainian citizens are using. This is a Molotov cocktail. I know you are probably thinking, these people are in Europe. How does this affect me? Russia's invasion of Ukraine has had worldwide repercussions that we are still dealing with today. One example would be the rising prices of gasoline. According to NPR journalist Scott Horsley on All Things Considered, March 12th, 2022, quote, U.S. gas prices hit record highs following sanctions on Russia, end quote. He also states that, U.S. was not a big buyer of Russian oil, is still subject to the whims of global energy markets. This is a picture of the gas prices, which have clearly risen. If Putin follows through with his threats of a nuclear attack on Ukraine, what would stop him from invading and attacking other countries? Some people will say that the risk of a nuclear war is low, but on ABC News on October 24th, 2022, the commander of the Ukrainian ground forces, General Alaskary Syritsky, stated that Putin's threat of idolizing nuclear weapons is true, and we should be, quote, worried, quote, end quote. BBC News on October 7th, 2022 stated, quote, estimates that Russia has 5,977 nuclear warheads. The devices that trigger a nuclear explosion through this includes about 1,500 that are retired and set to be dismantled, end quote. The nuclear threat is real. What about his strong allies, China and North Korea? They could step in and help him and cause World War III. If you look at the map, from 1945, which is on your left, that is what the Soviet Union looked like, and on your right is territories of Ukraine and Crimea that Putin has claimed and annexed from those two countries. You can see that Russia has already attacked Crimea, Georgia, and now Ukraine. Russia is expanding its reach westward, and by comparing those maps, you're able to see visually that perhaps Putin's goal is to reunify the Soviet Union by piecing it back together by military force. If this is true, then we'd be back to the 80s, the standoff with the Soviet Union, and preparing for World War III and the threat of nuclear war. You might ask what we can do, how we can prevent World War III from happening. Well, what we can do is we can arm Ukrainian citizens, provide guns to them. First of all, we, meaning the United States, can commit to give guns and military weapons to the Ukrainians to help them fight the Russians. In the magazine FP on April 3rd, 2022, Garen Walsh, a former national security policy advisor of the British Conservative Party, stated, quote, "There has been too much cheerleading and too little attention to the detail when it comes to giving Kiev the weapons it needs," end quote. Many Ukrainians want to protect themselves, but don't have the guns, like most European countries. The Russians are ruthless and they will kill civilians. So if we arm Ukrainians, we can prevent many casualties. I'm sure everyone is aware that the United States has a bigger weapons arsenal than Ukraine, so giving them tanks, rocket launchers, and guns would help prevent Russians from fully taking over Ukraine. But at the very least, let's give guns to the civilians who are attempting to protect their homeland from the invaders. The fighting and invasion of Ukraine should make everyone realize that the threat of nuclear war is a huge reality. We should all be able to help stop Putin and Russia from taking over innocent countries like Georgia, Crimea, and Ukraine, destroying the countries and most importantly, killing innocent people. We need to help the Ukrainians protect themselves. Thank you for listening.